Yay, yay. Hey.
We are live.
This is Literary Roadhouse. I'm Rami.
I'm Gerald.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
One short story once a week.
Yeah.
This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story once a week. I'm Rami.
I'm Gerald.
I'm Maya.
And I'm an ace.
Today's story is called Man from the South, and it's by Roald Dahl. And in this story, we start with a narrator sitting by a hotel pool in Jamaica. As he is watching the young people frolic and have a good time, he notices a smartly dressed man wearing a fine white suit who looks a bit out of place around this pool. The man comes to sit poolside next to the narrator, and one of the young American men and his British girlfriend come to sit down on the other side of him. The man in the white suit pulls out a fresh cigar, and the young American man offers him a light. When the man in the white suit makes a comment about how windy it is, the young man replies that his lighter always works. Upon hearing this, the man in the white suit proposes a wager that if the young man successfully lights the lighter 10 times consecutively, he can have a great new Cadillac car. And if he fails, all that the man in the white suit requires is the young man's left pinky finger. And he asks the narrator to referee this whole challenge. So they go up to the apartment, and as the young man is lighting his eighth lighter, his eighth light on the lighter, he's interrupted by a woman who apologizes and excuses the man in the white suit for his behavior. And then the story ends with the narrator noticing that her only fingers remaining on her hand are just one finger and a thumb.
Okie dokie. So I think it's interesting. We've been doing this, year and a half now? I'm distinctively realizing that I have a taste in short stories now. I did not have that when we started. I was just open to everything. But now I'm realizing I have a definite taste for stories, certain stories.
Your service, Maya.
So I am not going to be the first person to say how I felt about this story. Gerald,
okay.
say something nice.
Don't have to. I loved his. He had some great descriptions. I loved how he wrote, and the story did draw me in, and I was silently going, no, don't do it. So that's a nice thing.
Annie's?
Yeah, I like it a lot. So I get what you're saying with the whole taste things. Like, this isn't the deepest story necessarily, but I'm still going to defend it because it was suspenseful. It had me on the edge of my seat. The ending was unexpected. It had that little bit of macabre touch at the end. So it's just like a purely satisfying, entertaining story. And because it's so quick, I don't care that it doesn't have depth, even though maybe for the literary Roadhouse, it's not as literary as we want to go.
Okay, as I was reading this, I was like, I understand why he is a celebrated author from his time. Like, he writes very competently. It was just very tight and wonderful use of language, but I didn't care. I didn't get any suspense. I didn't care.
How do you not get
I kept
suspense?
waiting for the story. Hey, are you talking? I'm talking. Okay. I didn't care. I didn't feel any suspense because I didn't have any connection to any of the characters. And I'm realizing that for me, in the stories I like, the characters have to be really strong to me. And I kept wanting to because the writing was so good. And I kept going because the writing was so good. But about halfway in, I was just like, come on already. And it's not that long of a story for me to feel that way. Okay, Rami.
Well,
Layer your praise. This is the Rami story. This is what I'm saying. We've been doing this long enough that now I can look at short stories. I can be like, Rami's gonna love this. Annie's is gonna love this. It's kind of funny.
Awesome. Well, no, I'm happy to have played a role in helping you find your taste in short stories.
Helping me find my barriers, helping me find the endpoint of my patience.
Yeah, good.
But to address your last comment, and again, like you just said, it's a matter of taste. I really don't mind having more anonymous characters or mysterious who just come out of nowhere. We don't need to know their whole backstory and know too much about their personalities and everything. We're just thrown into this situation and things are going on and it's kind of escalating at kind of a rapid pace. And I think that's what built up the suspense for me.
Yeah. And for me, I think what was lacking wasn't so much knowing, quote unquote, more about the characters, just the voices all kind of melded together. I didn't get a sense of who the person is. And you don't need to know their backstory to know that. That can be done in dialogue. That can be done in a couple sentences. I never really got a feeling for the story. And I just thought that was really fascinating because it does something that's really common now. Was this one of the beginnings of the twist ending?
No, we've had twist endings for a long time.
But like in the specific format for super short stories, this reads like the flash fiction workshop short stories that you learn when you learn to write flash fiction. Gerald knows what I'm talking about. It reads that way, doesn't it, Gerald?
Yeah.
Like it's that style. And I was like, is this where that style comes from? Did Roald Dahl like invent it? That's kind of awesome if he did.
Maybe, but I think it's older than him because the story that we're going to revisit for the 100th episode, which is the story of an hour, is also super short and has that twist.
It is super short, but it's a different type of twist.
The last line is a twist. Huh? The last twist was like she's super happy that her husband's dead, and then it's like, but he walks in through the door and he's not dead. But it is slightly different.
Yeah, this has a feel of the current flash fiction style. And that's what I found fascinating. It feels like what you write, what you would get in most flash fiction like magazines or journals right now. And when I took the flash fiction workshop with Holly Lyle, this is the type of story that I was learning to write. And I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah.
Both better characters.
It is that. And I did, I mean, sort of half defending it, I did feel for, yes, I know what you say, Maya, about the characters, apart from the guy from the South who had this funny way of speaking, so it was a bit obvious, you know, he English wasn't his first language, and that sort of got a bit tiresome after a while. And apart from that, yeah, the way they spoke was quite similar across all of them. But I thought he did this, you know, carefree young sailor guy with his girlfriend or girlfriend or whatever it was, and
who was a girl, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it might have been a more casual girlfriend or something, but
Hey, those things happen when you're on vacation.
Really?
Young people in a hotel, you know.
So, and I can see him getting drawn into this bet, this wager, and so I was taken in with that, and I was sort of thinking, oh, you know, don't do it. So I was invested in his character, but the ending, I thought. Yeah, I'm glad she came in and stopped it because it's a silly thing.
You didn't want to.
But the actual ending with the fingers,
and blood. You didn't want to go there. No. Does anybody have a favorite part of the story?
Favorite part?
It might be. Even though it might be when he tells the referee, the narrator, to begin, because at the moment I was like, oh my God, here we go. Like I had immediately had like a dread. So just the fact that I wouldn't say I felt for the character in a way where I was like empathetic or sympathetic. The story doesn't lend itself to that, where I'm like, my heart's breaking for this dumbass sailor kid, even though I don't want him to lose his finger, but more it's just dread and suspense on the edge of my seat. So I think the fact that like the 1, 2, 3, I'm like skipping ahead because I just want to know what happens. That is really effective, suspenseful writing. So I really liked that. And also, of course, the end. Just the fact that it's like, oh, and she's lost all her fingers. Like, ooh, all but 2. It's good.
Yeah, I'd say that's my favorite part as well, is that last line in the end. Well, let me tell you something, and maybe you'll appreciate how much respect I have for you, Maya. Remember how back earlier on I was adamantly against submitting stories that we haven't read, and I was like, I take the time to like read through stories and I screen them out.
Yeah, you thought I was an irresponsible schmuck.
Right. Whoa. Oh, sorry. No, not
that's
quite. Put it in.
Hey, come on, let's just be honest. You thought I was an irresponsible schmuck.
No, because it wasn't you. It was all three of you who disagreed. Anyway, eventually, I stopped. I stopped doing that just because I don't have as much time now. But what I want to say is I actually read this story as part of that screening process, and the first time I had read it, I didn't bother to submit it because the thought in my head was that Maya isn't going to like this story. Because it doesn't have the depth and everything you just said.
That is so
yeah,
funny.
we are getting to know
now
each
we're
other.
even, because that same thing happened when I was submitting Bukowski. I was like, oh, I can't submit that. Rami will hate me.
Thank you. But upon a second read, I realized there are things, maybe they're not super deep, but it's interesting in that how the boy, how he describes the boy is just like pondering it over and thinking about whether or not he should go through with it, and how this young kid, he's 19, 20 years old, how he rationalizes it, like, okay, I never really had any use for this finger anyway. That's a great looking new Cadillac. I think it's worth trying it out. And that twist ending, because until that point, we're under the impression that only this man has some kind of mental impairment or has a few light bulbs missing from his chandelier, as some people put it.
Wait, which man? The man from the south?
The man in the white suit.
You did wonder about
Both
that.
of them sound crazy to me. Both of them are crazy to me.
Well,
Both the man of the
no, I
accepts
excuse the boy based on his youth. They tend to do reckless things, and the frontal lobe isn't fully developed until the age of 25, and that's responsible for impulse control.
Which reminds me, I need to sell T-shirts that say it's not my fault. My frontal lobe isn't developed yet.
Yes.
But
That's the uniform we should have.
Once we reach that last line at the end, that we realize that there is something psychologically wrong with this woman too, that she would actually go through with all of these bets and be willing to risk so many fingers to get all his stuff.
I would say, okay, there was a couple things I really did like about this story. The first one is Rami, what you talked about, how the kid went from, no, I'm not doing that, to, and that anxiety that he was feeling at being one-upped or being called out on a bet and not being manly enough to do the bet or whatever. That was really interesting. I think the woman's character at the end, I found her interesting, because when you think about these types of bets, two types of people come to mind: young, irresponsible sailors and old gambling addictions. Like people that will gamble just because they are addicted to gambling, and when they have nothing left to gamble, they will still gamble. And so those are the types of people you're seeing in your mind. And then this woman comes in and she's going to save this boy, and you're thinking, oh, good, voice of reason. And she's like the end point. She's like where you get to when things get that bad, And I thought it was really good storytelling as far as her character, which was kind of what pissed me off so much about the other characters, because by that point I was like, Roald Dahl, you can do this. Hello. And so it made me even more angry about the other characters. But I thought it was interesting, and that it was a woman, who was so worried about this young boy that she had won everything from this man. I thought this perspective on like gambling addiction was just really interesting.
Yeah, though I think it's interesting that you're like, there's some woman who was so worried about this boy who had won everything off of this man. So are you seeing it as like she engaged in all these bets to win everything from him to heroically save other victims? 'Cause that's not how I saw it. Okay.
No, what I'm saying is you wouldn't think of an older woman being in that situation.
Yeah.
So when this woman comes in, she's like, stop, stop, stop. And you're thinking, oh, good, someone's here that's going to like get these men to stop acting like idiots. And then you see that she's missing fingers. The reason why he doesn't have anything is because she's been working to win all the money off of him. I thought it was really interesting that this couple are both addicted to gambling together. And that's not a dynamic you see in literature very often. It's always some old drunk guy that's addicted to gambling. And so, yeah, I thought that was fascinating. I felt like her voice was really clear. And that's what tipped me off so much about the man in white's like stereotyped voice, and then the young people's voices all melding together. Because when I got to her, I was like, well, Dahl, you can do this. What's up with before? Like before I was kind of giving him a pass. Well, maybe he's just not a character writer. But that showed me he was perfectly capable of writing character in just a couple sentences. So then it pissed me off about the other characters.
Yeah, I think you're right, and also yes, it is a good commentary on gambling, because it shows how she was addicted, and having lost one finger, she was then determined to get the car. So it shows how gamblers think, oh, just one more.
I mean, it's one thing to lose a half a dozen cars, but when you've lost like 3 of your fingers, like you're pretty far gone. Like that's like when you bet the devil your leg, and then you're like, well, I lost my leg, but my soul's still here. Like, come on now.
and then go back
second time.
And going back to what Rami was saying, I think also, so he was talking about the perspective of this kind of crazy person who's like only one of them, and there's 2 of them, but also the perspective of the boy. Like, there's just like, so why doesn't he turn it down? Is it really just the allure of a Cadillac? Is it his pride? He's afraid of being like called a chicken, basically.
In front of his
like,
girl.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's a pride aspect to it, and he knows he can win, that cockiness. There's all these things that come into it, which is just so youthful, because the narrator would never have accepted this bet, right? There's a sense in which there's like that youthful kind of like bravado. I don't want to say naivety, but like,
I think there is some of that. I think at a certain time, you think you're a little bit invincible, that nothing bad can happen to you. And if something bad happens and you just didn't, it was meant to happen. And, I didn't need that finger anyway. Like, I remember being like that.
Yeah.
Let's bungee jump without the bungee. Like at a certain age, that sounds really attractive.
And he did say, he said, yeah, I'll bet. I always bet. And he always bets $1. So yeah, he's sort of just, I suppose, just starting on with the gambling thing,
He hesitated. At least he had enough sense to hesitate.
Yeah.
I would hope so. It's a finger.
Yeah. But then it's a Cadillac, so
I mean, that's a really nice car back then.
Don't need my pinky to drive a Cadillac, do I?
Okay. Anyways, if someone were to bet you something for your pinky finger, what is enough money that you would bet your pinky finger?
Oh.
Man, I don't know. It would have to be straight up cash. I don't care about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm such a little wuss when it comes to pain, and I feel like I do use my fingers. I type a lot. I don't know. I'd have to maybe be like in like the 7 figures. Like,
okay, if it was my pinky finger, I'm like, okay, I need like 100,000 or to pay off all my student loans, debts, take care of some stuff for the kids. Another like 100,000, take care of my kids, like student loans and stuff, and then like $1.5 million to retire. So 50% for taxes. Like, Charles, that's how you're old. When you like taxes and how much that you would pay.
Exactly.
Finger. So I'm guessing like 2 million, 2.2. Yeah, I could lose a little finger for that.
For a finger? Jeez.
I mean, it's just my little finger. That's a lot of money, dude. No student loans. Both my kids' colleges paid off. Half to taxes, so I don't get arrested for tax evasion and still have $1 million to live on. I think I'm good.
I'd want more than one finger for that. Crikey.
That's why there are people who sell their organs too.
Yeah, but you know what? The one kidney thing, and then like part of me, like, okay, I got enough Louisiana in my blood. I'm just like, just in case I don't want to be gone, and then like my kidney's somewhere, and then some voodoo person like takes my kidney and like does something with my corpse, and then I'm a zombie and I can't go home. And I was
Wow.
like,
The fear of voodoo.
hey, I'm in New Orleans right now. I'm like, I cut my hair and I'm burning all of like the cuttings. Like, nuh-uh. You don't leave body parts around here. So yeah, I think like 2 million, I would do it, but not for a car. Like my little finger's
No.
worth more than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remy, you're not getting out of this question.
This sounds like this could have been the what do you
It
the
could have
game
been the
we play.
quiz.
Yeah, the quiz. And like everyone writes it down secretly, and then we all say it.
That's funny.
I was also going to say, I was also really happy with the ending because I kind of had a fear at one point, which was, okay, so he can't just cut off the finger, because if this story ends with, and the guy lost the bet we all knew he was going to lose, and the guy cut off the finger, that'd be really unsatisfying. And if he doesn't cut off the finger, that means there's a lecture coming about not accepting bets from crazy people. Like the guy's going to be like, actually, I won't, but let me now give you a parable, which also would have pissed me off. I was like terrified that a parable was coming.
I was
was
waiting for it
horrible.
because it was a Remy story. I was like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Here's another
I'm like, oh my God,
parable.
is this going to end on a lecture? I'd be really mad. But then it didn't. So I think that also boosted me. I'm like, yes, this is pure entertainment. It's dark fun.
Part of me
It was
just wants to
probably-
give an extra point for Remy not making it end the parable.
I was terrified that's what's going to happen. I'm like, oh my God, a lecture's coming.
I think it's probably the best ending that they could have been under the circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't end it on the kid driving off in the Cadillac, because then you just taught like everyone that it's good to bet your little finger because you're gonna win and get a Cadillac. So you can't do that either. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know he's gonna, next time he goes somewhere, he's gonna say, "Well, I don't need the other little finger," so he'll risk that
Yeah.
as well.
But who in their right mind would ask for their finger?
Yeah, I know.
He's crazy. He's also crazy.
I don't know, 2 million. I would be willing to bet my little finger for if
No,
I
I
could get 2
mean
million.
the other person who's
Yeah.
gonna get the finger.
Yeah, what do you
And
What
maybe he
use
just
is it
has
to?
like fingers.
Finger fetish.
Oh, great. Wrong story, Remy.
I think we have gone down a rabbit hole now. I think gamblers are. It's not the winnings, is it? It's the excitement of the gambling itself that drives them on. So yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you test gamblers, it triggers the same part of the brain that smoking and heroin and sex triggers. Like, it's purely just like euphoria.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gerald, what did you think about the writing?
Good in parts, very good in parts. I think it dragged in parts as well. I think when you asked what's your favourite part, and I was thinking, well, I really like the opening, the beginning of it, but then. And then it starts. I was getting on towards 6 o'clock, so I thought I'd buy myself a beer, go out and sit in a deck chair. I went to the bar and got the beer and carried it outside. I just think, is that necessary? But then it says the wind was blowing strongly through the tops of the palm trees, making their leaves hiss and crackle as though they're on fire. And talking about the guy in the white suit, he walked very quickly with little bouncing strides, pushing him high up onto his toes with each step. I thought that sort of observation was really nice. I really enjoyed that. But it's I don't know. I just thought sometimes he just over-expanded things and dragged things out a little bit.
How about you, Annise?
I don't know. The writing was really effective. Like, I think we can't take away from the fact that we're feeling suspenseful because of the way that it was written. I wouldn't say it was like super poetic. I mean, there was the thing about the hissing and crackling, right, with the palm leaves, but it wasn't like a super, descriptive, poetic, musical prose. But it did have a suspenseful tone. And before the suspense, it had this sort of like mistrust of like all these characters, like, like, who is this person and what do they want? Why does this guy want a finger? There was a little bit of that as well. So I feel like I can't really dock it for not being like really poetic because it's doing something else. That's not like what it's trying to do.
Exactly. I thought it was interesting, Gerald, what you talked about the lull, because there definitely was a lull for me too. I felt like the ending and the beginning were some of the stronger written parts. And then the middle, that sagging middle, it would get strong and then it would level off. And then it would get strong and then it would level off. And it lost me a couple times in that middle where I was reading it and I was like, well, what did I just read? Not because I didn't understand it, but just because it wasn't bringing me in and holding me. But then there were other parts that were very, very well written. And I like what you said about it being effective, because I feel like calling it competently written isn't quite giving it its due. Mm-hmm. It's more than competently written. It is effectively written. But it isn't, yeah, I know, we have a new level. Hooray,
yeah. And effective was one level up, which is it's making you feel the things it wants to make you feel. It has an effect.
Exactly. And that is something that I don't think a lot of writers give enough credit to. Like,
yeah, that's hard.
I think that's important. But it definitely wasn't the style of writing that I would go out of my way to read. But I do understand why this story was so important for its time, why it won prizes for its time. It was tight. It was very tightly written. Mm-hmm. There was very little that I felt like could be cut out, you know, in that kind of looking at the story.
Mm. Yeah, I thought the proposal for the bet took a long time to discuss, and also going up into the room and making drinks and all this sort of stuff. That was a little bit, you know what's coming, so just get on with it. Just take a sip.
You wanted him to Michael Bay that story.
Yeah. You know, but it's been made into TV and film adaptations and parodied. It was parodied on American Dad, was with a lawnmower. If you can get the lawnmower to start 10 times, they made a bet about it. So like, it's really? Also inspired other media, because that's the other thing is like, so in the same way where, you know, we tend to, especially on shows like this, where we're looking for literary depth, you know, we tend to really respect and nod towards really poetic, musical, beautiful prose that has a lot of character depth. But when things are effective, we're like, it's effective, but we don't really know what to do with it. I think it's also a degree to which this is just pure entertainment. And also, entertaining people is hard. Like, just having a purely entertaining thing is a talent in and of itself, especially when it's this short. So, like, no one lost a lot of time getting through this, which is why, like, I feel like for this podcast specifically, which is the literary Roadhouse, does it give you a full episode worth to chew on? Not really, but he's still doing things that are not easy. It's not easy to make people sit on the edge of their seat. It's not easy to be entertaining in a very universal way that other people mimic.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not going to say the story doesn't have depth. My problem with the story is purely with the characters. But there's a lot of nuance in what's actually happening between these people. You know, why do the others decide to go up to the room and watch this bet? Mm-hmm. Like, there's some subtlety there. What is this dynamic between this woman, I'm assuming his wife or his girlfriend, and him? And why are they together after she's won all his money and he's trying to gamble stuff up? Like, there's a lot of nuance in that relationship. And I think that's why I'm disappointed about feeling so distant from the characters, is because I feel like that nuance would have been even stronger if I had felt closer to the characters. I don't know if that is due to just some finagling, something I'm missing, or if it has to do with the tense. I felt like this was written in a very distant third-person tense. And I feel like now, the way most people write short stories now, when you run into third-person short stories, they tend to be written in a very close third, at least the ones I like. And I'm thinking maybe that's why I felt like I didn't understand. I didn't feel these characters in a way that made that nuance, that made the conflicts, that made the tension like really come alive for me.
Yeah. Also, I get what you're saying with the distant third, but just in case there's like students listening to this, it is technically first person on the technical level. We're just saying how it feels.
It is technically first. Why does it feel so distant if it's first person?
Because it's not exploring the narrator's feelings very deeply.
We don't know anything about
it. I guess it's almost certain, like The Great Gatsby, how there's a narrator, but he's kind of just like a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and nowadays, like when I read first person, you're just right in it. Mm-hmm. But this definitely, like, you're right, because it was first person, but it felt so far removed.
Yeah. And also Gerald said that the part with like the cigarette, like just getting to the bet felt like there was a lull, but I think that was also intentional because I think the guy who's making the bet is feeling out because like the thing is like this cocky kind of like naval cadet who's there like he's like, oh, you're sure it's gonna light every time, even in the wind, you're 100% sure. He's testing out this guy, goading him and backing him into a wall. Once you've said this so many times and you feel like, well, for the sake of my pride, I need to now accept this bet because
idiotic bet.
Yeah, because if it had been the narrator who was like, oh, you want a light? He'd be like, oh, it won't catch in the wind. He'd be like, are you sure? He'd be like, well, no. He'd be like, do you want the light or not? Right? You don't get into this back and forth. You'd be like, light it or don't. That's the way that most of them act. But this kid is
and there's something else that's this kid is not only betting his finger, he's betting his career. He shows up at the Navy base with a missing finger. He's not going to be in the Navy
Maybe
any
it's
longer.
intentional. Maybe it's time for him to get discharged.
True.
He's maybe this was written right before the war. That's one way to get out of the draft.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't really have any more.
No.
Does anybody else have anything else to say about the story?
No.
Well, here we are at a half an hour. I'm impressed we were able to go on this long for this story, given its short length and its lack of depth. So are we ready to rate this?
Yes.
You guys go first, because I have no idea how the hell I'm going to rate this story.
I'll go first. I started at a 4. I'll go to a 4.5 because I did enjoy the story. But yeah, it's an enjoyable story. So yeah, a sort of averagely good 4.5.
I'm also a 4.5. My rating didn't really budge. 4.5 just feels right. It's a pretty good rating. It's well over half. And then I have a bit of Konechi Prophecy, and I know things I've given a 5 to that I enjoyed more as I read it, so I can't give it a 5. So I've been Konechi Prophesied into a 4.5.
Yeah, when we started, I started out with a super, super low rating. And I was conflicted because that rating didn't feel appropriate because, as you said, it was doing what it was meant to do. But it's just missing something for me. Through the conversation, I'm realizing that I liked it more than I initially thought, that there is a little bit more depth there. But I'm fighting to give it a 4. I'm just not there. I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Okay. I think it's fair.
Rami?
Did he freeze?
Did he just freeze on us?
I think he hasn't moved in a while.
How are we going to do the quiz if he's the one that's frozen?
I know. Well, he probably realized.
How are we going to know what to read next week? I want to submit a story from Kenyon Review. We haven't read one since that first one fell flat. I think we were all scared off.
What was the one we read from Kenyon Review? I can't even remember.
The one that you and Remy tore apart and we got hate mail. I think that's the only one we've ever read from Kenyon Review.
Wait. I can't remember. Oh, yeah. That was Kenyon Review. I forgot. Yeah.
We haven't read anything.
Although I sometimes feel like
since that.
Like I want to reread it to see if my opinion has changed, but I'm worried it won't. Like, this is the fear.
You really want to put yourself through that again? Like I've considered it, and no.
Like now, 2 years after the fact, will I see it differently? But
there's so many great short stories out there, and short stories that I know are great, but I wasn't able to fully appreciate them. That I would enjoy reading more than that particular short story. So yeah, I'm not there yet. Maybe someday.
Yeah, or maybe I'll like read it privately. And be like, how do I do it now?
Yeah, definitely not on air. You guys really, really panned it.
Okay, but it was really bad though. Okay, I shouldn't.
You can cut all this out so that we don't get more hate mail.
Not from the live version, I can't.
No, I felt really bad. I felt really bad when I read this letter. I was like,
do you know how many
times? Bad, but it really was bad.
Do you know how many times I've done the audio for the show and I'm cutting out some crap that we've said that I'm like, if we had a sponsor, they would not let us publish the live show. They wouldn't let us.
No, I would ban us. Because we say some, well, let me just be more honest. I say some stupid shit on air.
We all have.
I've
right? All of us. where I'm like, you know what?
Oh, come on, but at least when Gerald curses, he sounds all like cute about it
I'm not
because
just
you know
talking
he's
about
older. He's got that English accent. He can totally get away with it. When I sound like that, it just doesn't work the same.
Yeah.
Okay, Rami, we're waiting for your rating.
Yeah, I was about to be thoroughly disappointed because I put in a lot of work in this quiz and I'm looking forward to it.
We
But
weren't gonna let this happen
what
without you.
did you and Anais rate it?
I rated it 3.5, and you were what?
4.5.
4.5.
4.5.
Yeah, I'll go 5 for me.
Okay.
And
Oh wow!
full
Only
disclosure,
a 5.
full disclosure, I'm a little biased because Roald Dahl is one of my favorite authors, and he wrote James and the Giant Peach, which I love.
Somehow I figured he was probably one of your favorite authors, and I didn't think you would give it a 6 because I think that this probably isn't his best work. But I fully was guessing you would be at like a 5.5. I'm actually kind of impressed that you gave it a 5.
I tend not to give too many half points in general. Just like to keep it in the
Don't
integers.
excuse it. You're getting extra points here for not giving it too close to a 6. Like take this and don't like negate
Awesome.
it. I'm totally stoked that you give it a 5.
Great. This
Right.
is such
He's
a nice
critical.
bonding moment.
We're
between
rubbing
us.
off.
Quiz.
All right. Submissions first.
Oh,
Yes. Somebody else go first.
well.
I'm submitting, The Swimmer by John Cheever.
Ooh.
I am submitting the 2016 winner for the Kenyon Review Short Story Fiction Contest. It's Butter by Eve Gletchman.
Well, you didn't let me have Gabriel Garcia Marquez in the past few times, so I'm going to Carve magazine. Sorry.
Oh
We
And
should have
the
let him win.
And a story from the time I moved to this lovely seaside town, 2008. It's Used to Be by Elizabeth Baines.
Okay.
All right. Like I said, I really enjoyed making this game. And although I don't condone gambling, that's what this quiz is about.
All right.
So
Mhm.
hope you're ready
Because gambling is
to list
bad,
some
kids.
things. Basically, how it's going to go is this, okay? I had a lot of fun researching the strangest, craziest bets in history. And I'm gonna tell you about them, and then you have to guess if the person went through with it or if they won, and so forth.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
we'll start with Anais.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, this is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Howard Lederer is a name famous amongst the poker world. The American professional has won 2 World Series of poker titles to his name and has earned over $5,900,000 by playing live poker tournaments. However, his hunger for winning was nothing compared to his hunger for food, and an overweight Lederer was told by doctors that he would need to get a gastric band and become a vegan to save him from an early grave. Lederer heeded the advice of the doctors and lost more than 75 pounds. Seeing an opportunity to make some quick cash, fellow gambler David Gray bet Lederer the princely sum of $10,000 that he wouldn't eat a cheeseburger. So did he do it?
Oh, he totally ate it.
Anais?
Yeah, did he eat a cheeseburger for 10,000? I'm thinking you through, because if you're someone who is totally scared of returning to that, and you're already rich, you already got 6 million. He did it. He did it.
Yes?
Yeah.
So unfortunately for Gray, Lederer easily wolfed down the burger and won the 10K.
What the hell's wrong with
Of
you, Gray?
course.
Yeah. Yeah. He did it. He did it. I was thinking there might be a twist, but no.
Yeah.
No, it's a cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger.
One cheeseburger is not going to make him gain back all the weight. It's 10 grand, and he's a gambler.
Yeah, he
Might be
did.
like alcohol, though.
All right, moving
Alcohol he
on.
might not have.
This is for Gerald.
Okay.
When John Matthews was diagnosed with cancer, he decided to turn the bad news into a chance to make some serious money. Medical professionals told Matthews that he only had 5 months left to live. But instead of resigning all hope, he literally took out a bet on his own life. So, did he live past 5 months?
Yes.
Correct. So, in the
Hey.
first year following his diagnosis, Matthews made $8,300 simply by surviving. The following year, Matthews kept on keeping on and earned himself another $8,300 in the process. The odds in his life increased to 100 to 1 in the third year, meaning he could have made another $16,000. Unfortunately, Matthews succumbed to his illness in May 2010, but went out of this world $16,600 richer.
Very
Not
good.
that it matters.
No,
Yeah.
indeed.
like when you're a bookie and you're taking bets on when someone's gonna die, that's just kind of messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they even do that for
Well,
celebrities.
yeah, they do that.
Who's the market maker for that? Who's like, yeah, I'll take the other side of that bet. I think you're gonna die before.
A doctor, maybe. Anyway,
Tell us how you really feel.
Maya, owner of Virgin Airlines and world-famous entrepreneur Richard Branson, offered AirAsia chief Tony Fernandez an interesting proposition bet back in 2010. Branson bet that the Virgin Racing team would do better in the Formula One season than the debut Lotus Racing team. The stake: the loser would dress up in drag and serve on the winner's airline for a day. Fernandez accepted the challenge, saying, "Bring it on, the sexier the better," and sending a mock-up of what Branson would look like as a female flight attendant. So, Maya, who won?
I would give anything to see Branson dressed up as a female flight attendant. But Branson, his team is sharp as nails. I'm gonna say that he won.
He won. Actually, in the end, Virgin came in 12th to Lotus's 10th, meaning that on May 12th, Branson...
Are there pictures?
I don't know. I don't know, but yeah, he did end up doing it, and it was for a charity flight from Perth to Kuala Lumpur with a makeup, a pair of heels, and freshly shaved legs.
Oh my god, I need to see that.
There are
He's
pictures.
not a
They're on
bad looking
Google.
man.
There's pictures of him in drag as a flight attendant. I will remind myself to put it in the show notes for this
Yes.
episode. It's great.
He's not a bad looking man.
He's got all the makeup.
All right, back to you, Anais. When most people run out of money in a game of poker, they simply have to exit with their head hung in shame and a wallet feeling much lighter. Not Andrei Karpov, though. When the Russian player was feeling a little short in a game of cards against opponent Sergei Brodov, he made a bold move and put his wife up as a stake. Did he win?
He lost.
He did lose. So luck was not on Karpov's side, and he ended up losing the hand along with his wife Tatiana. She was so furious at being bet away that she divorced Karpov, saying, "It was humiliating and I was utterly ashamed, but as soon as my ex-husband did that, I knew I had to leave him." Brodov, the guy who he bet against, who won the bet, literally won the heart of Tatiana, and they ended up getting married.
Aw.
He was a very handsome, charming man, and I am very happy with him, she said, even if he did win me in a poker game.
Okay.
All right. Back to you, Gerald.
Yep.
Here's
The
Branson.
turn. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He committed.
Nice.
He full on committed, goatee and all. I love it.
All right. The turn of the 20th century produced some very amusing people looking to take advantage of a newly connected world. Harry Bensley was a playboy and businessman who earned a healthy income from investments abroad, leaving him free to occupy his time with truly ridiculous bets. One evening in 1907, Bensley became embroiled in a discussion between financier J.P. Morgan and the Earl of Lonsdale as to whether a man could walk around the world without being recognized. To make a long story short, the two men wagered that Bensley couldn't circumnavigate the globe wearing an iron mask and pushing a baby carriage the whole way. Bensley took on the bet for a cool £21,000 prize. So did he win the bet? world. So the bet was between J.P. Morgan and this Earl, but did this guy Bensley manage to circumnavigate the world?
Without being recognized.
Wearing an iron mask and pushing a baby cat. I don't know why the baby cat just
Yeah.
There's a picture of that too, because there's more to the story. Like he had to sell postcards of him in the suit of armor and with the baby carriage for money. He had to like find a wife along the way too or something.
Wow.
That's just funny.
Anyway, so was he able to circumnavigate the world? No.
Correct.
Ooh.
So sadly, despite claiming to have made it through Ireland, Canada, America, Japan, China, India, Turkey, and Italy over the course of a 6-year trek,
Oh my
the
goodness.
outbreak of World War I prevented him from completing his wager. All the same, Morgan and Lonsdale were impressed enough to award him £4,000 for his efforts.
For 6 years, you make £4,000.
Well, back then
No.
it could have been a lot of money.
I don't care.
Early
No.
1900s. This is how rich people used to amuse themselves back then.
Clearly.
Yeah.
What's the movie where they have the maids hanging from the coat?
Well, you gotta take a break from making new colonies. It gets exhausting.
Oh, that was the Saunders one, right?
No, not a short story. It's a movie where these rich guys have a bet. They have the maids in the hotel hang off a curtain rack, and they're betting which one's going to hold on the longest before her arms give out. It's like making fun of ridiculous bets. I forget what movie it is.
Okay.
If you know,
All
put
right.
it in the comment section.
We're back to Maya, I believe.
Yep, I'm ready. Because obviously nobody wants to read 10 years.
This one's one of my favorites, okay? It's about Swiss opera manager John Heidegger. And just listen to the words they used. The aesthetically challenged Heidegger moved to London as a young man and quickly cultivated a reputation for having the ugliest mug in the country, like face. But this claim was challenged by Lord Chesterfield, who wagered that he could track down an uglier individual. Confident in his unassailable repulsiveness, Heidegger accepted the bet. So did he win, Maya?
No, there's somebody out there uglier. He
So
had to find somebody that was
unfortunately
more
for him, Chesterfield managed to source a woman from the slums of London who looked set to trump even Heidegger in the ugly stakes. When he arranged a meeting between the two gargoyles, Lord Chesterfield fully expected to win his wager. However, before adjudication was made, Heidegger snatched the woman's hat and placed it on his own head. The sight of Heidegger in her hat was so exceptionally grotesque that the woman fainted, leaving Heidegger the winner and the undisputed ugliest person in Britain. So he did win.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, some people just, wow.
Wait, I
Some
haven't
bets.
done a good job keeping track. Anais, did you get one wrong?
No, so Gerald and I are tied
You-
2 each.
Okay, great. All right, so you're
Yeah, I've lost.
yeah.
Do like a tiebreaker between the two of them.
Or unless you don't want to keep going.
No.
Gerald.
I got my pizza to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right, fine. Here's the tiebreaker. Did you know that one of your favorite children's books was written on a bet? According to CNN, after Dr. Seuss published The Cat in the Hat, which contains a total of 225 unique words, his editor, Bennett Cerf, bet him that he couldn't write a book that used even fewer words. And the Doctor of Rhymes came back with green eggs and ham. So, how many unique words are in green eggs and ham?
Oh man, that's good too.
310.
Wait. It had to be less than 225.
Oh, not more? That's a weird bet. That you
No,
can't
no, he
write.
said he bet that he couldn't write a book that used even fewer unique words
Oh.
than
That's
the 225.
oh. Did he do the fish one next? Because
So no, and then he wrote no. So he came back and he presented green eggs and ham that
okay.
used
That
fewer.
has fewer. Okay. 100.
All right, Gerald.
540.
All right. Anais is the winner. There were 50.
Hey.
What?
really?
50 total words.
Wow.
Unique words.
Yeah, I remember reading that. It was pretty cool.
Okay. Well, we are reading The Swimmer by John Cheever. But before you go, tell us how many fingers you have left in the comment section at literaryroadhouse.com. And let's make a bet. We bet you don't know how to leave a comment on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spreaker. If we're right, we take your left pinky finger. And if we're wrong, you get a car and you get a car. Please support our podcast and car gambling expenses at patreon.com/literaryroadhouse. And good news, you don't need all your fingers to listen to our other shows, the Literary Roadhouse Book Club and the Bradbury Challenge. And as always, share this podcast with the naive naval cadet in your life. Until next time, read a good story.
Annie, you need to write like a really like fast spoken like disclaimer like at the end of like those medical commercials, you know, talking about how the joke at the end of this podcast does not mean that you're going to get a car. Yellow funny. Nothing
There
said
will
on the
actually
podcast.
be a car.
I love those little disclaimers at the ends of those commercials. They're just so horrifying.
Actually, let me do a little one. That might be funny. Yeah.
Cure your rash, and the side effects are death.
Right, I
Oh,
go,
that was a great
people.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have fun with the pizza.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
So, okay, I gotta turn this thing off. Enjoy your pizza.